Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 2, Other Heroes of Chaos. Chapter 142, Inkling. Who exactly was the young master in white handing out porridge on the outskirts of the city? Countless commoners inside and outside the city were all scrambling over themselves to guess. Some said he was an advisor of Zhou Gui, while some said he was a distant nephew of Kong Ling. Rumors flew all over without a single concrete explanation. It was only when Shen Zequin left the city that his identity as the eighth illegitimate son of the Shen clan spread like wildfire and promptly became the talk of the town in Cha province. Compared to the storm of public opinion in the city, Shen Zequin's return journey was calm and quiet. It could even be said to be silent. They returned along the public roads and in not that much of a hurry. Because Shen Zequin had fallen ill once on his way over, Kong Ling and Xiao Tianya went to great pains to make prior arrangements before they embarked on the journey back. They even bought an overcoat from a peddler from He province in case the weather suddenly turned cold during their journey. Kong Ling was being attentive as he told Xiao Tianya, "It'd be better to get a physician to take a look at the vice commander when we return. He can afford to improve his health while he's at home. Otherwise, we're all going to be on tenterhooks if he has to venture out again on business the next time." Xiao Tianya held the bowl of water in his hands and looked at the horse carriage parked under the shade of trees. "Where are we going to find a good physician? With the way my master's health is, only a formidable physician would be able to make a proper diagnosis. As his guards, there is no matter concerning our master that is troublesome. I'm just worried that my master will feel apologetic for inconveniencing us." Kong Ling knew nothing of Shen Zequin's consumption of medicine in his early years. He always thought that Shen Zequin was just not in good health. But from the way Xiao Tianya put it, Shen Zequin used to be in better health back in Chu capital than he was now. Xiao Tianya drank a sip of water and made no further mention of this matter. He had been feeling bored during the journey these past 2 days, and thus he had repeatedly thought back to that night the bandits went on a rampage to hurt the others. He felt that even if Shen Zequin wanted to deploy the trick of injuring himself in order to trap the enemy, he should not have been so badly hurt. Once his body was used to reacting swiftly, it would be even tougher for him to control himself from warding off the blow right that very instant. Xiao Tianya had seen Shen Zequin draw his blade before. To the others, Yang Shan Shui was too long, but because Shen Zequin was swift enough, it was just right for him. Xiao Tianya saw the wound on Shen Zequin's palm after the incident and found this injury to be unusual. Although Shen Zequin looked as usual as he always did and never revealed a word of it, Xiao Tianya guessed that it was for the sake of concealment that Shen Zequin did not draw his blade recently. If that was truly the case, then Shen Zequin might have sensed that his body was no longer how it once was much earlier than the people around him. However, it had not even been 6 months since the day they left Chu capital. This matter had to be conveyed to Shifu and the Marquis. As Xiao Tianya thought about it, he splashed away the remaining water, kept away the bowl, and rose to instruct the men around him. "It's almost time. Let's hurry on with the journey." The sound of movements outside woke Shen Zequin up. His neck was sore and aching. Thus, he leaned his head to one side to rest it against the wall of the carriage and slowly exhaled. The curtains of the carriage were not lowered, and he was too lazy to move, so he remained in this position and watched the trees along the way shift backward slowly as the horses started to run. "Where are we?" Shen Zequin's voice was slightly hoarse. Xiao Tianya put on his bamboo hat to block out the sunlight and sat outside the curtains to drive the carriage on. "We should be leaving the Cha province's borders tonight. After 2 days of travel, we should be arriving within the Tse province's territory." This public road had fallen into disrepair in the last few years, and traveling along it made the journey so bumpy that it gave Shen Zequin a headache. "The next time the grains are sent to Cha province, get Luo Mu to take out the funds and hire a repair team to fix this road up properly." Xiao Tianya pretended to sigh with emotion. "Then what about when we travel to Libei? The roads there are even more difficult to travel on. The tracks in Libei are all bridle paths." Shen Zequin perked himself up a little as he spoke. They were constructed to be wide and flat to facilitate the passage of the armored cavalry. Be careful not to let the Marquis hear you fabricating things up behind his back. Qiao Tianya took down the stalk of grass he had been holding in his mouth. It's fine even if I said it to the Marquis's face. If he comes back this time, you should first make sure he doesn't see that injury of yours. Shenzequan raised his left hand. Even though the wound had been bandaged, the wound area was prone to being soaked with sweat due to the hot weather, and the sensation was akin to being bitten by ants. Xiao Xian is currently busy. There's no way he'll be back for a month or so. If you don't mention it, he naturally won't find out. Qiao Tianya bit back down on the stalk of grass. Shenzequan asked, "Are you going to tell on me?" Qiao Tianya said as he steered the carriage, "Later. Let's talk about it later. I can't hear you clearly from here." Shenzequan lowered his arm. "I'll write him a letter when we get back, and we're considered done with this matter." He thought about it for a moment after saying so, feeling the nape of his neck starting to tingle with itch faintly. Then, as if remembering the sensation of being bitten by Xiao Er, he emphasized his words, repeating once more, "This matter is considered over and done with." Agreeing perfunctory, Qiao Tianya pulled at the reins as he thought about it. As expected, telling the Marquis was the best way to handle him. It's a tried and tested method. ******. Shenzequan had left for a little less than half a month this time. Gradually, the heat of the 7th month subsided. Due to its proximity to Libei, Chse province was much colder than Cha province, with signs of autumn already beginning to show. Zhou Gui had been looking forward to their return, and he started waiting outside the city very early on. Upon seeing the horse carriage approach, he lifted his robes and walked over, beaming with a smile. "Vice Commander Cheng Feng. It has been hard on you the entire journey. Please enter the city now. I've already prepared a feast to welcome you back." They paused for a bit outside of the city gates to exchange courtesies before heading in together. Zhou Gui hosted the feast in his own residence, hardly discussing official affairs at the table. He knew that Shenzequan had fallen ill during the journey, and so after the meal was over, he personally saw Shenzequan out of the residence. He emphasized that there was no urgency regarding the affairs on hand, so there would still be time for a discussion after the vice commander had rested for the night. Even then, Shenzequan still had Qiao Tianya remain in the Zhou residence, so that when Zhou Gui and Kong Ling gathered the fellow advisors in the study to discuss the trip to Cha province, Qiao Tianya could stand by to listen and answer any questions so as to not slow down the proceedings. On the other end, Ji Gang, who had also been waiting for a long time, came over to receive Shenzequan when he saw the latter coming from where he stood at the entrance of the alley a distance away. The sky had turned to dusk, and with Shenzequan's sleeves hanging down, Ji Gang did not see his injury. He gave Shenzequan a once-over, and followed up with a question, "How did you fall sick on the road?" "I even asked Sanjiao to prepare a coat in advance, worried that the weather would change while you were traveling." Shenzequan lifted his right arm and led his Shifu through the door. "It's just a cold. I'm fine, it's no big deal. Has Shifu taken your meal yet?" "I sat down for a meal earlier in the Zhou residence, but I haven't eaten my fill yet." Ji Gang walked side by side with Shenzequan through the door. He still meant to ask about his illness, but Shenzequan's words of "haven't taken my fill" distracted him off course, and he happily said, "I've guessed it. I knew you'd arrive home today, so I made a special trip out this morning to choose some plump fishes. What do you want to eat? Shifu will prepare it now for you. They have already been cleaned up, and the ingredients are all prepared and ready, so it'll be ready in no time." Ding Tao came up from behind them and poked out his head. "Young master! Young master is back!" Li Xiong followed suit behind him and shouted, "Young master, too!" Ding Tao's sparrow leaped onto his shoulder and chirped away. It was merely a few steps from the entrance to the courtyard, and yet it was even more lively than it was outside. The flowers and plants in the courtyard had been tended to with such care that they were in an even better condition than they had been before he left. The hall of the principal room was spacious, and the bamboo blinds had all been lifted. It looked comfortable. Shenzhen ate another meal with Ji Gang and asked about Ding Tao and Li Xiong's progress in their martial arts. Fortunately, it was his left hand that was injured. He rested it on his knee the entire time during the meal, so Ji Gang did not suspect a thing. The lively atmosphere in the room kept up until the hour of sui, when Ji Gang told Shenzhen to rest early. As it was Qiao Tianya's turn to be on duty tonight, he took Ding Tao and Li Xiong away with him. It was only when the room fell silent that Shenzhen breathed a sigh of relief and took off his outer robe. The maidservants let down the curtain and lit the incense. All along, no one was permitted to remain in the room to serve at night, so the maidservants withdrew from the room to the hallway, leaving only Shenzhen behind. Shenzhen took a bath, changed his clothes, and returned to the room where he put on the outer robe again. Then he lit a lamp and began to write a letter. At the first quarter of the hour of Zhou, Qiao Tianya returned and set the new book Zhou Gui and the rest had newly drafted up on Shenzhen's desk. Shenzhen sealed the letter and asked, "What's the latest news in Libei?" Qiao Tianya, who had his coat over his arms, said, "Bad news. It'd be better for master to hear it tomorrow morning so that you can get a good night's sleep tonight." Shenzhen flipped through the book. "The worst news that I can hear is that those from Biancha have already fought their way to our threshold. So go ahead and tell me." Qiao Tianya turned the chair over and sat astride it. "It's not bad to that extent. It's the Marquis. The Marquis brought the Imperial Army into Libei territory, but he did not head north back to Dying to meet with the heir apparent. Instead, he went to Bianbo camp near Zongbo. The Marquis stayed in Bianbo camp for a night, then led the troops east the next day to launch an assault on the Shazan camp, thereby scoring a military achievement and distinguishing himself to his lordship the prince." Shenzhen lifted his eyes and thought for a moment. He smiled. "Retrieving the Shazan camp is no small achievement." "Right." Qiao Tianya picked up the conversation. "Such a significant merit ought to be rewarded." Upon hearing this, Shenzhen asked, "What did his lordship reward him with?" Qiao Tianya stretched out a finger. "One camp." Shenzhen raised his eyebrows slightly. Qiao Tianya continued, "The Bianbo camp. His lordship kept the Marquis there and handed over the Shazan camp, which the Marquis fought to take back, to Guo Walai instead. Does master still remember this person? It's the same man who previously framed Gu Jin for colluding with the enemy." The handover between both parties was not pleasant. The Marquis retreated to the back and was placed between the Shazan camp and the three great training divisions of Liu Yang. There was completely no sign of him in the battles to the north and east. Shenzhen released his fingers and closed the book. The Bianbo camp is a main camp that the heir apparent used as a supply site. By remaining there, Qian would be managing Libei's military supplies and equipments. However, there was no shortage of generals for military supplies in the Libei armored cavalry, so why did Xiao Fangxiu insist on getting Xiao Qiye to do it? All else aside, it was far harder for Xiao Qiye to be a general of military supplies than to be a commanding general of Shazan camp. If Xiao Qiye were in the Shazan camp, then as long as he led the imperial army to fight successful battles with the Biancha men and earned military merits to his name, all sorts of rumors and gossip against him would naturally evaporate into thin air. When the time came for him to step into the battlefield in the north, he would have the confidence and credence to engage with the other Libei commanding generals. But as the general of military supplies in Bianbo camp, he would be lower in rank than the other commanding generals. He had to heed the requests assigned to him from the various parties and run all over Libei to deliver supplies. This was not only a hard job to do but would also make him easily susceptible to being bullied and mistreated. When it came to it, his military achievements would not be up to par as the commanding generals fighting battles ahead of him, and yet the hardships he had to put up with would be no less than the others. After a moment of silence, Qiao Tianya probed tentatively, did his lordship pick up the Marquis from somewhere and adopted him? The disparity in his treatment of the Marquis and the heir apparent is really great. Shen Zequin looked at him and said, seems to me like you're the one who was picked up. Qiao Tianya raised his hands in surrender and shut his mouth. Shen Zequin passed the sealed letter to Qiao Tianya and said, get someone to deliver it tonight. It's late now, there's no need for you to stand guard outside. Go back to your courtyard and get some rest. Right before Qiao Tianya was about to step out, Shen Zequin called out to him. When he looked back and saw Shen Zequin's expression, he said in earnest, I know. I remember it. The part about you getting injured is over and done with. I won't mention it to the Marquis. His quip made Shen Zequin forget what he was about to say, so Shen Zequin waved his hand at him in speechless silence as an indication for Qiao Yuyu to leave. Shen Zequin did not remain sitting for long after Qiao Tianya left. It was already late at night now. He blew out the lamp and lay on the bed, listening to the croaking of frogs from the courtyard pond. He did not know if it had been Ding Tao or Li Xiong who had caught them and brought those frogs to the pond, but they created such a ruckus that he could not sleep. It was only after an unspecified amount of time later that Shen Zequin's consciousness started to dim. There was no one beside him except for the refreshing sweetness of the incense for company, but somehow, it turned into the metallic stench of blood in his dreams. The Hashi sinkhole, which had not appeared for a very long time, now lay beneath his feet. Shen Zequin looked down at it, but there was nothing inside. The faint croaking of the frogs hovered in the air. Shen Zequin broke into a sweat and subconsciously turned over with his back to the croaking noises. There was no snowstorm over the Hashi sinkhole tonight. The sun rode high up in the sky, blazing to the point that Shen Zequin felt the stinging pain on his skin and sweated profusely. There was evidently no corpse in this pit, and yet Shen Zequin felt himself surrounded all around by people he could not see. They smothered him, making it hard for him to breathe. He could not help but pull apart his tightly fastened collar. Drops of sweat dampened both of his eyes as he gasped for breath. He saw a person lying in the sinkhole. It was his own self. A chill suddenly ran down Shen Zequin's spine. He thought of Qi Huilian. His teacher shouted for him, but his voice was drowned out by the croaking of the frogs. Shen Zequin never used to be afraid of returning to the Hashi sinkhole again. He had no fear of this place at all. Yet, at this moment in time, he felt the urge to flee. Someone approached Shen Zequin, and Shen Zequin opened his eyes almost instantly. Xiao Qiye had only just partially removed his armor as softly as he could. How could he have expected Shen Zequin to wake up so suddenly? He promptly froze by the bedside, still with his arm guard in his lifted hand. The two of them looked at each other for a moment. Sensing something amiss, Xiao Qiye tossed the arm guard onto the desk and pulled up a portion of his sweat-drenched, narrow sleeves. He squatted at the side of the bed and cupped Shen Zequin's cheeks with his palms. What are you peeking at? Only then did Shen Zequin seem to snap back to his senses. Xiao Qiye drew closer to him and looked at Shen Zequin with a sharp, penetrating gaze. His eyes were like stars in the pitch-dark room, so bright and calm that Shen Zequin's mind gradually cleared. Xiao Qiye stroked his slightly damp hair and whispered, "It was such a bumpy ride here. Get Zhou Gui to fix the road as soon as possible. He closed off the city. I squatted outside and yelled for half a day." For some inexplicable reason, Shen Zequin was amused into smiling as he nestled in Xiao Qiye's palms. It was then that he woke up from his nightmare. The scene of his own corpse lying at the bottom of the pit was still clearly imprinted in his mind, but in just the twinkling of an eye, he had forgotten it all. Shen Zequin let out a partial smile before asking dubiously, "Then how did you get in?" Xiao Qiye took a deep breath and answered slowly, "I somersault over. Lang Tao Shuijin is still tethered out there." End chapter. Note: 1 hour of Sui is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. 2 hour of Zhou is 1 to 3 a.m. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 2, Other Heroes of Chaos. Chapter 143, Hidden. Xiao Qiye's body temperature was running hot. He was bathed in sweat all over after riding for half a night. He retracted his hand and continued to disrobe, looking at Shen Zequin as the latter sat up and asked, "Have you eaten tonight? I'll look for something to fill your stomach. I met the courier horse delivering your letter on my way back, so I intercepted it and now, I already received the letter you wrote to me." Shen Zequin, who had been moving to get off the bed, paused. He lowered himself and watched Xiao Qiye from that position with a hint of seduction in his gaze. "Where is it?" Xiao Qiye raised a finger and tapped at his chest. Shen Zequin extended his right hand in an expectant gesture to ask for it. Xiao Qiye placed his armor to the side and rose with his hands on his knees, staring at Shen Zequin as he did so. "Do you want it back? Come get it yourself." Shen Zequin felt a tingle run down his spine from Xiao Qiye's gaze. He felt his way to Xiao Qiye's chest and slid the pads of his fingers down along his chest. All he could feel was Xiao Qiye's sweat-drenched muscles. He whispered in a soft voice, as if he did not seem to understand, "Give it back." On the surface, Shen Zequin still had the dazed look of one still not fully awake, yet his fingertips were feeling Xiao Qiye out with ease and familiarity. His fingers wandered, aimlessly and almost imperceptibly, not minding in the least to let Xiao Qiye know that his appearance now was merely an act. Xiao Qiye relaxed his breathing, afraid that he would lose himself to his own desires and devour Shen Zequin clean in just a twinkling of an eye. He seemed to be unmoved, using only an ardent gaze to pursue Shen Zequin. Shen Zequin felt all over that sturdy torso, his breaths intertwining with Xiao Qiye's as he moved. They pressed close together in this position, one higher than the other. Shen Zequin's expressive eyes glistened with ripples of desire. Despite this, he still spoke guilelessly, "See Ian, I can't find it." Xiao Qiye allowed Shen Zequin's fingers to do as they pleased. He tilted his head slightly, catching a whiff of Shen Zequin's scent. Seizing the moment, Shen Zequin pressed his cheek to him and nuzzled against him. The satisfied look in the corners of his eyes took hold of Xiao Qiye's heart, clenching it. As he perspired, Xiao Qiye laughed out loud with a brief, harsh sound. He set his palm on the small of Shen Zequin's back, pulling him so close that Shen Zequin was practically pressed against him in his embrace. There was no distance between them as they kissed, pressed as they were against each other. But while Shen Zequin was kissing him, Xiao Qiye was biting him. As Shen Zequin was pinned down onto the bedding, he swiftly extended his arm and placed his injured left hand onto the nape of Xiao Qiye's neck. The bedding sunk down under their combined weight. Shen Zequin's inner garment was in disarray, and as Xiao Qiye kneeled with his head lowered to look at him, a fan fell out. Shen Zequin picked the fan up. He had only just grasped it in hand when he saw the letter fall out, too. Xiao Qiye made to pick up the letter, but the sharp-eyed Shen Zequin deftly used the folding fan to push the letter aside to the edge of the bed. Immediately after, he flipped the folding fan over and propped it against Xiao Qiye's chin, then lifted his head and planted a kiss on Xiao Qiye's lips. Xiao Qiye did not appear to notice his actions, absorbed as he was in the kiss to the point that he was roused and poised for action. Both of them had not done it in quite a while, so now that they had finally got together, Xiao Qiye went along with Shen Zequin's teasing. As though he had reached the end of his patience, Xiao Qiye fondled Shen Zequin until Shen Zequin was flushed red all over. Waves of passion crashed into Shen Zequin to the point that he trembled uncontrollably. Shen Zequin had learned well, no longer the picture of inexperience like he had been back in Chu capital. Shen Zequin narrowed his eyes, using the last bit of his reason to remind himself to find a way to toss the letter under the bed later. Before he could finish putting together his plan, he was flipped over by Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye held onto Shen Zequin's waist, admiring the contours of his back as they formed an absolutely beautiful curve. Shen Zequin's sweat-soaked inner garment had turned translucent. From the back, it appeared to offer an unobstructed view of the scenic scene underneath, yet it also seemed to be shrouded under a veil of fog, distant and unattainable. Shenzequan looked back, wetting the corners of his lips. Xiao Qiye went on the offensive to seize his territory. This all belonged to him. The scorching heat, the damp sweat, the moans, the expressions in his eyes, the shivers, even the scent that Shenzequan emitted along with the rocking movements. All of this belonged to him. They were all his Xiaoqi's. Whenever Xiao Qiye's thoughts strayed down this path, a limitless well of exhilaration would surge up inside him. Shenzequan knew him too well, and every sultry look he gave him was like a knife to the chest. Xiao Qiye exerted himself physically. The more he cherished this man, the more terrifyingly rough he became. He wanted to caress him to pieces. Xiao Qiye nibbled on Shenzequan's right ear, holding the jade earring between his lips. Shenzequan could not endure such a position, as Xiao Qiye got so deep inside that his sweat and tears flowed in never-ending torrents. But there was nowhere for him to escape to. Shenzequan's waist and ankles felt as though they had been restrained with a chain. He felt a little strained and a little pained, yet this pain sent tingles of electricity up his entire body, rendering it limp and numb. It made him forget all of his nightmares. There was only Xiao Qiye, Xiao Qiye, Xiao Qiye. Shenzequan shivered, all drenched in sweat. Just as he was about to lose control and let himself go, he murmured, "See Ian." Xiao Qiye was clearly not done yet, but Shenzequan's soft, languid call made him come anyways. Half of Shenzequan's body had already sprawled over. He buried his head between his arms and gasped incessantly for breath. He was still trembling slightly. The bedding under his knees was already a wet expanse. It was in this position that Xiao Qiye bent over and covered Shenzequan with his chest. He had yet to withdraw, and as he pressed down on him, he advanced deeper instead of retreating, causing Shenzequan to let out a muffled moan. Xiao Qiye offhandedly brushed aside the messy pillows and enveloped him in this way. "I'll hold you for a good night's sleep." Shenzequan's earlobes had been bitten red and the exhaled breath of hot air made it numb and sore. He lifted his cheek from his arms, his eyes red and wet as he mouthed to Xiao Qiye, "Too mean." Xiao Qiye kissed him and he remained motionless. There was a soft wet, watery sound, and only then did both of their ravenousness alleviate some. Shenzequan was bearing Xiao Qiye's weight and yet he felt incomparably relaxed, as if Xiao Qiye's presence was his impenetrable shield. Xiao Qiye caressed him. He understood him all too well. He could tell just how much weight Shenzequan had lost just by holding him in his arms. He nudged away the hair by Shenzequan's ear with the tip of his nose and said in hushed tones, "Did things go smoothly in Cha province? You've lost so much weight." Shenzequan thought for a moment and shook his head. Xiao Qiye probed, "What happened with Luo Mu? Did he give you the attitude?" Shenzequan pursed his lips tightly and continued to shake his head. Xiao Qiye exhaled warm air and teased him. "Did the bandits in Cha province create trouble? I'll redeploy the imperial army over for you." Shenzequan half narrowed his eyes. "It's from missing you." Xiao Qiye had yet to respond to him, but Shenzequan continued already, "It's rather cold to sleep alone on an empty bed." Xiao Qiye embraced him from behind, grasping both of Shenzequan's arms tightly. He started to say something, but then he caught a glimpse of white out of the corners of his eyes. He pulled over the left hand that Shenzequan had been hiding under the blanket and abruptly turned it over, where he saw the gauze wrapped around it. His eyes shifted to Shenzequan. Shenzequan did not look at him and buried his head into the beddings. "Shen Lanzo." Xiao Qiye pulled Shenzequan's face back by the chin and enunciated each word, "You." "Sure." "No." "How?" "To hide it." "Huh." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next morning, Qiao Tianya headed out of the city early on and led Lang Tao Shuijin back from where it had been left outside the city in the cold for the entire night. When he arrived at the courtyard, he saw Meng striding around playing by itself under the eaves. He blew a whistle at Meng and asked in a soft voice, "Where's your master?" Meng paid no attention to him, not even with a tilt of its head as it went about its own way. It turned back and continued striding as though it had an endless stream of concerns weighing on its mind. Qiao Tianya saw that the bamboo blinds in the principal room had been lifted, but there was no one in attendance standing under the eaves. It was bright and spacious inside the principal room. Shenzhequan sat behind the desk with a book in hand covering his face, revealing only a pair of eyes looking across at Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye put up one of his long legs and leaned back in his chair with a hand propped up as he rotated his thumb ring. Although he did not look back, he had already heard Qiao Tianya's footsteps, so he said, "Come in." Noting something amiss with the atmosphere, Qiao Tianya bent over to enter at the same time that he asked with a smile, "The weather is pretty good today. How about having lunch in the courtyard?" Xiao Qiye did not answer. Shenzhequan shifted his gaze and motioned for Qiao Tianya to continue. Xiao Qiye said, "You, shut up." Qiao Tianya, who was standing at the back, sensibly shut his mouth and revealed a "Can't he help you there" expression. He felt that he really shouldn't be standing here. Xiao Qiye rotated past the crack on his thumb ring and caressed it with his finger. He still had a matter on his mind. "Go call Ding Tao over first." Ding Tao was standing at the courtyard entrance when he saw Qiao Tianya coming out of the principal room. The latter stood under the eaves and beckoned to him, but Ding Tao felt a little reluctant to go. He placed his hands at his back and rubbed at the mud left between his fingers, then shuffled over at snail's pace to the bottom of the steps. Inexplicably feeling a little afraid, he craned his neck and said in a small voice, "I'm here." Xiao Qiye said, "Get your ass in here now." Ding Tao jumped up the steps, then slowed down as he cautiously made his way in. He saw Qiao Tianya standing by the side pretending to be a wooden stake, then saw Shenzhequan looking down at a book, and he felt sure that he was going to get a beating today. Xiao Qiye turned sideways and asked, "Where did the frogs in the pond come from?" With his hands behind his back, Ding Tao lowered his head and answered, "Caught them from outside." Xiao Qiye said, "It must have been hard catching them from beyond the city and bringing them back home, wasn't it?" "That's quite some distance." Ding Tao braced himself and said, Not too bad." Xiao Qiye sneered, "Rebelling when no one's at home, aren't you? Before I left, I told someone to clean up the pond, and you turned around and threw frogs into it." Ding Tao had caught them for fun. He initially planned to put them in his own courtyard, but their courtyard had no pond, and Shenzhequan wasn't home half a month earlier, so he and Li Xiang had tossed them into the pond after catching a bunch. But in just a couple of days, he had forgotten all about them. Who would have known that the master would return right then? Ding Tao stole a glance at Shenzhequan just as he was done thinking about it. Xiao Qiye said, "Who are you looking at?" Ding Tao instantly withdrew his gaze and lowered his head like a timid quail to listen to the lecture. "Go." Xiao Qiye continued. "Get rid of all of them before the hour of you today. If I hear the frogs croaking again tonight, I'll get someone to fish them up, bring them to your room and make you sleep with them for company." How would Ding Tao dare to raise any objections? He nodded his head vigorously, then leaped up and dashed out of the room onto the hallway shouting, "De Xiang!" He was only just done yelling when he belatedly covered his mouth and whispered in a particularly small voice, "Come catch the frogs." Shenzhequan changed his posture and held the book steady. Xiao Qiye looked at him, although he spoke to Qiao Tianya. "What happened during the trip to Cha province? Your master's recount isn't clear. You tell me." Qiao Tianya scratched his head. He was now starting to envy Fei Sheng, who was still in Cha province. He had a good sleep last night, but he had been neglecting his appearance lately. He did not even have the time to shave as he stood in the morning light and spilled it all out in a concise and comprehensive manner. Qiao Tianya did not even hide Shenzhequan's illness. If Xiao Qiye had not returned, then his lack of mention was because of Shen Zequin's instruction. However, now that Xiao Qiye was back, Qiao Tianya took the opportunity to give Xiao Qiye a reminder. Once Qiao Tianya was done, he did not wait for their instruction before he added on, the discussion of the affairs over in the Zhou's residence last night isn't done yet. Since Master is not heading out today, then I'll set off now. With that, he made his way out from the bamboo blinds, fleeing even faster than anyone else. Shen Zequin did not sleep for long last night, and now he was feeling lethargic reading the book. His gaze shifted over to Xiao Qiye's face. When he saw Xiao Qiye looking at him, he blinked, as if he had only just noticed it, putting on a pretty convincing act. Xiao Qiye said nothing. Shen Zequin loosened his grip and revealed his face. "Ah yeah, I'm so hungry." Xiao Qiye folded up that opened letter and stuffed it back in the same way it was before. Shen Zequin probingly stretched his leg out and stepped on the tip of Xiao Qiye's shoe. He set the book aside on the table and bent over, the tip of his foot nudging along Xiao Qiye's calf. Xiao Qiye stared at him and said callously from a small distance, "You've cut me in the heart so bad it's been torn to shreds. It's too late now. Shen Lanzhou, I'm dead." End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 2, Other Heroes of Chaos. Chapter 144, Orange Jasmine. Having rushed his way back on his horse at top speed, Xiao Qiye rested for a night. Although he had to get on his horse and head back after the hour of Sui tonight. He ran on a tight schedule and he had gone to great efforts to painstakingly save up these 2 days of free time. He had been on the move for 8 or 9 days in a row in order to not delay the transportation of supplies to the site of battle. And he had done it all just to see Shen Zequin. But who would have thought that he would end up so angry? Xiao Qiye held up Meng and removed the anklet on Meng's leg before putting it back on, causing Meng to flap its wings and throw a tantrum. Xiao Qiye threw a tantrum, too. He was vexed, feeling angrier the more he thought about it. Ji Gang returned from his stroll with his birdcage in hand. He was taken aback to see Xiao Qiye, but after a moment of hesitation, he entered all the same. Xiao Qiye paid his respects to him as a shifu. Due to Xiao Qiye's height, Ji Gang had to raise his head to look at him. The war in the north is in a critical situation. Ji Gang handed over the birdcage and said, "Your shifu must have been having a tough time fighting battles." Xiao Qiye hung up the birdcage and said, "It has been tough on him. Shifu often thinks of you and mentions you from time to time." Ji Gang placed his hands behind his back and said, "I've never fought a battle, so I can't be of help there." "You rushed back in such a hurry, is there an important matter that you have to attend to?" Xiao Qiye thought not yet, although the reply from his mouth was, "The Biwen hunting grounds have been given to me and the Imperial Army intends to remain stationed there. I came back to ask Lanzhou about the progress. Once the time is right, I'll arrange for someone to come over." Ji Gang knew that these were all matters they spoke of in detail and at length, so he nodded and did not probe further. It was rare for Xiao Qiye to come across Ji Gang, so he seized the opportunity to say, "Did Lanzhou fall ill on the way to Cha province?" "Shifu, he's a picky eater. With you to keep an eye on him back at home, he would still pick a little of each dish to eat. Even when he falls ill, he is willing to take his medicine. But once he's out on business, everyone around him listens to him, and without anyone to keep watch on him, he'd dare to pick and choose his food." Ji Gang was reminded of this as soon as he heard Xiao Qiye. "Oh, right. I was going to give him a piece of my mind yesterday. He steered you away from the topic." Xiao Qiye finally stopped tormenting Meng and lifted his arm to let it go. "He has a guilty conscience. No doubt he wouldn't dare to mention it to you." Ji Gang nodded, but then sensing something odd, he asked, "Why would he have a guilty conscience? Is Chuanair hiding something else from me?" "Yeah," Xiao Qiye said with a slight furrow of his brows. "There is a large gash on his left hand. The return journey was long and they didn't change the dressing meticulously enough on the way back. When I saw it last night, the wound on his palm was almost festering from all the sweating. The color drained from Ji Gang's face. He hurriedly followed up with a question, "Where's he?" "Sleeping." Xiao Qiye paused for a moment before continuing. "He slept late last night and he was pretty exhausted, too. He was all worn out when he woke up this morning. Shifu will have to keep an eye on him in the future, lest he doesn't take his health seriously. I'm far away in Libei and plenty of what I know depends on what he shares with me in his letters. If he has the intention to keep it from me, then I would be kept completely in the dark." Ji Gang straightened up. "I have to watch him change his dressing." Then, he thought the better of it and sighed. He wasn't quite nursed back to health back then when we were staying at the temple. The physicians we called for were all useless men who could not come to a diagnosis. His body is weaker than others. The longer time elapses, the more it has to be taken care of. You know it too. When he entered the capital, he was first tortured in the imperial prison followed by a flogging, and then there was your kick. That was one brutal kick. If not for my old acquaintances in the Jinyi Way coming to his aid on the sly, Chuan would have been long dead. His health was in a terrible state at that time and to hide it from the others, he took medicine. Now I'm worrying day and night, precisely because I'm afraid." Xiao Qiye kept silent for a moment, then suddenly lifted the hem of his robe and fell to his knees. He set both palms squarely on the ground and kowtowed formally to Ji Gang. Ji Gang was promptly stunned. "What are you doing?" Xiao Qiye maintained his position and spoke with his head bowed to the ground. 6 years ago when I rode my horse across Zongbo, the man I hated the most was Shen Wei. I held him in contempt for abandoning the city and fleeing, and I also feared the Empress Dowager's support for her puppet, and so I kicked Lanzhou in Chu capital. Shifu is right. My kick back then had been brutal. I'd done it with the intent to take his life." Ji Gang choked, momentarily tongue-tied. Afraid that Shen Zequan could hear him from inside the room, he turned his head away and let loose a heavy-hearted sigh. Xiao Qiye paused for a moment, then continued, "It's all my fault that Lanzhou is in such ill health today. The physicians in Zongbo are incapable. I've already gone and invited Venerable Yideng over. When the war subsides after autumn, my Shifu will come and take his pulse, too. Even if Lanzhou is utterly difficult to care for, I still want to do it. But I'm currently stationed far away in Libei, and the deliveries of provisions for the military cannot be delayed. If I cannot see him, I don't feel at peace. Incidents like what happened in Cha province cannot keep on happening, but I have neither family nor close friends in Zongbo, and can only ask this of Shifu." "Shifu," Lanzhou abruptly came face to face with adversity in his youth, and he likes to keep things to himself. Even when he's in pain or sorrow, he keeps silent about it. But he treats you as his father. As long as you're by his side, he will take your feelings into consideration and show more regard for his own health. I don't have any other request. All I ask is for you to scold him a little more, so that he will know the errors of his ways and feel pain the next time he does something like this. Shifu can lash out at the Xiao Xian." Ji Gang stood rooted to the spot, stunned and stupefied, feeling as if there was something not quite right with those words, yet at that point in time he could not quite put his finger on what exactly was wrong with it. He looked towards the window, where he heard a light clink of a teacup from the other end of the bamboo blinds, just one sound, and then all was quiet again. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The frogs in the pond had been entirely removed, and the courtyard was very peaceful after dinner time. Xiao Qiye went to have a shower after his meal. Lang Tao Shuijin and Meng had already been fed. Shen Zequan stood under the eaves and scooped up a handful of the newly planted orange jasmine. There was no one else in the courtyard, but there was a small table with snacks under the eaves, bathed in the evening glow of the sunset. Shen Zequan sat down and gazed out into the distance at the setting sun, lost in his thoughts. Xiao Qiye walked out, damp from his bath, and crouched down behind Shen Zequin as he dried his hair. Shen Zequin grasped the orange jasmine and turned his head back. Xiao Qiye lowered his head and kissed Shen Zequin. The setting sun was a hue of reddish-orange, and the world, silent and still, even the wind was tactful enough to leave this portion of the courtyard to just the two of them. Shen Zequin suddenly turned around and pounced on Xiao Qiye. Partially leaning back against the doorframe, Xiao Qiye hugged Shen Zequin tightly and pressed the tip of his nose against Shen Zequin's cheek, saying in a fierce tone, "You're pressing against my injury." Shen Zequin threw the pieces of orange jasmine into Xiao Qiye's pocket. "Let me touch it." Xiao Qiye did not let him. He grabbed hold of both of Shen Zequin's wrists and pulled him towards himself. He was strong and fit, and so it did not strain him the slightest to bear Shen Zequin's weight. Even the way he sat was carefree and unrestrained. Both of them cuddled together, from dusk to night. Actually, Xiao Qiye had been very unhappy for the past half-month. The Shazan camp that the Imperial Army had taken back had been given to Guo Wulai, and when Guo Wulai came to take over, he bumped into Gu Jin. Both of them found the other an eyesore, and friction was also increasing between the soldiers under their commands. Xiao Qiye swallowed this grievance and took over Wu Ziu's position in the Bianbo camp, but escorting the transportation of supplies was far more difficult than he had imagined. He was bossed around by the commanding generals of the respective military camps at the site of battle, and even after retreating to Daying, he still had to submit a full and detailed report to Xiao Jiming regardless of its significance. After leaving the military tents, he had to socialize with the merchants from Loxia Pass and Huai Province, often drinking through the night. Then he would have to ride off to another camp, even before the sky had turned bright. But he had no intention of telling Shen Zequin any of these. Xiao Qiye thought of the folk songs of the Hanjian Mountains. He did not know how to sing them and could only hum its melody playfully. Shen Zequin had his eyes closed as he slept amidst the delicate scent, his head resting against Xiao Qiye, and his hands clutching at the front of Xiao Qiye's robe. Xiao Qiye held him in his embrace, humming until it was about time before he picked him up and carried him back into their room. Shen Zequin did not loosen his grip, so Xiao Qiye bent over and blew lightly at his palms, then crouched down and watched for a short while before saying, "I'm still angry." Shen Zequin partially opened his eyes and poked at Xiao Qiye's cheeks, whispering, "Don't be. All you do is lie to me, you." Xiao Qiye was momentarily at a loss for words. Is second young master this easy to deceive? You sure are remarkable to be bullying a pure and innocent young master. Shen Zequin rolled over to lie on his stomach and faced Xiao Qiye, head to head. Damn, this gaze. Xiao Qiye could only swallow his indignation. He pinched Shen Zequin's cheeks and spoke in a raspy voice, "Go on, keep acting cute with me. It's futile, Shen Lanzhou. If you give yourself another stab the next time, I'll die immediately in Libya. I won't exist anymore. Do you hear me?" Shen Zequin nodded, all well behaved. Xiao Qiye leaned closer and bumped his forehead against Shen Zequin's. "I have to go." Shen Zequin did not let go. "When will you be back next?" Xiao Qiye had no answer for that. He stroked Shen Zequin's cheeks with the pads of his fingers. "Soon. There are still plenty of matters to attend to, but things should get easier once autumn arrives." It was already the hour of Sui. Shen Zequin released his grip and gazed at Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye had never felt standing up to be this difficult. He swiftly put on his arm guard and let down the bed curtain. Finally, he lowered his hand and brushed across the tip of Shen Zequin's nose with a finger. "Sleep well, Lanzhou." Lang Tao Shuijin left the city under the cover of the night, with Meng following Xiao Qiye along as it soared to the skies and headed north. Chen Yang had already come to meet up with him halfway. Xiao Qiye could only sleep for a couple of hours upon reaching the Bianbo camp, after which he had to head north to the battlegrounds immediately. At the very exact moment Xiao Qiye left Xe province, A donkey trotted into the territory of Zongbo. This donkey was carrying a man bent over its back. It was impossible to tell if this person was dead or alive. A couple of hungry meowing sounds rang out from within the opening of his sleeve. The man opened his eyes with great difficulty, looked at the pitch-dark road ahead of him, and closed them again. End chapter. Note, hour of Sui of 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.